everyone, Elsie Jensen here. Today we are going to make some homemade sourdough croutons. We're going to saute up some chicken for a chicken and sourdough melt. We're going to make a lovely salad with some homemade dressing, and then we're going to make some pumpkin oatmeal cream pies, one of my favorites. Okay, let's start on our oatmeal cream pies. So we're going to be over here. And this is going to make, roughly, a dozen to a dozen and a half oatmeal cream pies. And that's with the 2 cookies kind of sandwich. So we're going to start with our softened butter, which I softened a little smidge too much, but that's okay. But we need 1 whole cup of butter, which is 2 sticks. And you want it room temperature or softened so that it will cream nicely into our sugars. And for this recipe, we're going to be using a cup of brown sugar and 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar. Put it right here. And then I'm going to get my whisks on, and we're going to just do a quick, or my egg beaters, I should say, a quick little whisk up of them. I always like to whisk the butter just a smidge before I put the sugars in. It makes it a little bit easier for them to incorporate. Okay, so now that I have it just kind of broken out apart, we're going to add in our sugars, which I have waiting for us over here. We are going to use, again, a cup of brown sugar. If you want more of that molasses flavor, you can use a dark brown sugar, but I find, light works well with it, or sometimes you get one of those blends that are kind of halfway between light and dark. And then we're going to do 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar. And I find the mixture of them gives kind of like that perfect amount of sweetness without going too into the molasses kind of flavors. And you want 3/4 of a cup of the granulated. We're going to cream our butter and our sugars together. Until all of it is kind of into one kind of cohesive sugar buttered paste. And this is, again, why it's really important to have your butter be softened or room temperature, because cold butter is really, really hard to cream. You can also do this with a stand mixer if you want to. Those work great as well. Now move it up and there we go. Okay, we are just about there.
I have a question. So what's the verdict on the shark?
Yes. So we were a torn family, and I actually think the biggest deterrent for my 3 older kids, so Evie, Lena, and Torn, they said they didn't like it. But I think it was they didn't like the bourbon flavor of the bourbon maple like sauce that it was cooked in. But everyone else, Teddy liked it, although he kept talking about it being a shark and how he caught it as far as much as eating it. Jackie liked it, and my husband and I liked it. Was it our most favorite fish? No, the sauce I thought was delicious, and I was like, ooh, this would be great on chicken. So I think I'm going to use my sauce again on another chicken dish. Maybe for lunch when the kids aren't here, but it was, so we were half and half. I think my parents, I'll have to get their verdict, but I think they're going to love it because they're like me. They love everything. Before we cream in our egg, I'm going to get our pumpkin kind of blotted out here and reduced down. So we need about a cup of pumpkin puree. So I'm going to scoop out a cup. Let's see, we're just maybe a little bit of a spoonful more. And what we're going to do is we are going to blot out the moisture. I did this the other day when I made my pumpkin chocolate chip cookies, which were fabulous. But pumpkin has a lot of moisture in here. So you need to, as you can see, you need to blot it out so that it's going to go into your cookie, but give it a nice chewy cookie versus a really fluffy cake-like. And I might even need to use even more. But just taking this moisture out is going to give you a much better end product. And I'm using several paper towels, but there's really no other way but with the paper towels. By the time you get to the end of it, you're going to have almost like Play-Doh. Oh, that's a very loud cat. In here. So we're going to scoop it all out. Let me grab a little bit more because as you can see, it's already blotted through just how much moisture is in here. And it's similar if you've never done this with pumpkin before. Think about if you've ever worked with zucchini, where you have to blot all of that liquid out, or you're going to have really runny zucchini muffins or zucchini bread. Pumpkin, for when you're doing it in a cookie, you have to kind of do it the same way. Here we go. So we're almost good. Now you don't have to completely blot it out until you have no more liquid coming out, but you essentially are reducing it down in size. So I feel like I've already taken my pumpkin puree down to a smaller amount on here. But the more moisture you can get out of it, the chewier your cookies will be. Leaving a moisture in it is going to give you, again, more of a cake-like cookie. Okay, I think we are down to a pretty good portion here. I'm using up all of my paper towels. Okay. I'm going to add my patted out pumpkin. Now this is going to allow me to puree it into the butter very easily, and will help it all come together. There we go. And then we will also be adding in 1 yolk. Again, we're not going to be using the whole egg because we don't want it to have too much liquid in it. Let's do 1 high egg spread. Beautiful. Okay. Oh, pop mine out. There we go. And, well, you know why? I didn't put them in backwards. Even though there's a lovely drawing that tells you how to put them in. It still works. Okay, let me get a little bowl to separate out because we don't want the whites, just the yolk. The whites will add too much liquid, and that's the same thing with the chocolate chip pumpkin chewy cookies that I made, I don't know, a week or 2 ago. We use just the yolk. And we just need 1 yolk. We'll mix that in here. We're also going to use 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. So 1, 2. And then we're going to use 1 whole teaspoon of our baking soda. And this is going to be our kind of our leavening agent for this. A teaspoon of salt. We're just going to get all of our spices in here right now. And where we need a whole tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice, which I put over here with all of our savory food. Okay. Now I think I'm not going to have enough in here, but I have a second container, but let's see. Actually, that looks like a perfect tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice. Shake out the left of it. You can also use a mixture of cinnamon, cloves, ginger, pinch of nutmeg if you want to, if you don't have pumpkin pie spice on hand. All of those add just like the right flavors to it. Yeah. Now we're going to mix our spices and our egg into our butter, pumpkin, and sugar mixture. And turn this up to a slightly higher speed. There we go. You can see we've got this nice cream, sugar, and butter mixture here. There we go. Okay, we've got oats and flour. We're gonna add our flour first and then our oats. So for this, we are gonna need 2 1/4 cup of flour. I said this makes us a good amount of oatmeal cream pies because remember, everyone is going to need 2 cookies. So there's 2 1/4. We're going to cream this in, and then lastly, the oats. I like to do the flour first because it allows the oats to then to mix in. It just makes a little bit better. And this is going to give us a nice kind of thick cookie dough. And that's all from making sure we squeeze that liquid out of our pumpkin because we don't want it to be too runny. There we go. You can see we're forming together a really lovely base to our cookie. And now we add in our oats. And we just need 1 3/4 cups of old-fashioned oats. Old-fashioned is the best. In a pinch, you can definitely use quick oats. Do not use steel-cut oats or you will have very crunchy cookies. So 1 3/4 of a cup. We'll give this a slight mix with it, and then we'll be ready to start shaping them up. There we go. Man overboard. Okay.
Yeah, new back to people that want to know about the shark.
The shark, yes. So we were divided in our shark last night. So I made some maple bourbon glazed shark, and my husband, I, Teddy, and Jack all liked it. My 3 older kids were not a fan of it. I don't think it was the shark. I think they just weren't a fan of the sauce that was on it. But I thought it was good. Not my favorite fish. I would definitely, it's got a similar texture to like swordfish. And that's, if you're not loving that texture, that's not the greatest. Oh, I think. So we've got our oatmeal cream pies right here. Let's get our butternut cup squash, a couple of them cubed up so we can throw them in the oven, and then we'll throw those in to bake up because those don't need as long. But we are going to, with our salad, we're going to have some roasted butternut squash. Now, I don't need a whole lot of butternut squash for this. So again, I'm just going to take off a couple slices for the top of this. And then we're going to roast up some peppers and onions as well. Just kind of do a roasted veggie to go on it. Nice kind of fall salad. It's a bit more hearty and delicious. And then we have this massive chicken breast over here, which I think I'm going to have to fillet 3 times because it is massive. But we're going to use that to go into our grilled, like kind of sourdough cheeses. We're going to do some bougie chicken melts, and I might even have some that I throw on our salad. Get a little bit of chicken everywhere. But, yesterday we baked up sourdough bread with our dinner last night, and I just love making grilled like cheeses or sandwich with sourdough. Leftover sourdough is the bomb. Okay, we're going to cube these up. Since it's going into a salad, again, I don't want to have super huge cubes because you want to be able to eat your whole salad kind of together, get dressing, lettuce, all of that. We're going to have our, again, roasted butternut squash, red onions, peppers, and as like the main veggie for it, I do have some tomatoes from my garden, as well as a cucumber from my garden that we're going to use in it. So those aren't necessarily harvest themed, but we're going to throw them in there anyways. And We're going to do, I have an apple that we'll add in there because I just love a nice crunchy apple with like roasted veggies. I think they pair really well together. Okay, we've got our squash, which should be perfect. Let me grab my baking sheet out here for our veggies. And we're going to have our butternut squash. And this is, since I cut it small, it's a very delicate one. We're going to be able to roast it up fairly quickly. I've got 3 peppers here. It's kind of picking all my fall colors. And we're using a sweet pepper. That way it's just kind of blends well with all the flavors. Cut off the tops here. And I'm going to leave my pepper slices, kind of slightly bigger, almost to be around the same kind of cubing size as our butternut squash, so that they're all roughly the same size, because you don't want little itty bitsy bits of peppers in your salad. You want a nice, good, hearty piece. And you could use 1 whole bell pepper if you want, but I just think that the little sweet peppers have a slightly better flavor. You've got less bitterness, and they're just a little bit nicer. Okay. So some just kind of good size pieces that will roast up. And then we'll do some red onions, and that way we can have a nice little drizzle of olive oil and have these roast up. It's almost like a little veggie tray. We don't need a whole lot of red onion, so I'm just going to kind of take, like 1/8 of it. Get that part off. And I'm going to kind of cut these similar to our our peppers. Just some nice bigger chunks of onion here. Give them a nice break apart. Here we go. And man overboard. Just you want to break your onions apart so they all have roast. Otherwise, what you'll have, they won't get that nice caramelization that happens when you roast them. So just break them apart so they have the best flavors. There we go. And then we're going to give this a nice little drizzle of olive oil. I'm going to throw on some rosemary and garlic salt and onion powder. So maybe like a tablespoon max of olive oil. We don't need too much in here. I've got some fresh rosemary, just a couple little sprigs that we're going to pull off. This will add a nice earthy flavor as well. You don't need too much because we're going to make a nice vinaigrette. You want to salt them. A little bit of garlic salt here. And onion powder is going to get a nice little savoriness to it. Let's give them a good toss. And then we can pop these in the oven. And then we will start shaping up our cookies while these are roasting. Make sure you get them all coated because you don't want to have any without that nice seasoning on it. Spread them out so they have equal roasting area. I'm going to wash my hands and let's pop them in. We have, the oven is set at 350 because that's what my cookies need to cook at. So we're going to start, they'll just roast a little bit longer on here. So I'm going to start them on the top. Don't need a timer because these are going to take like 20 or so minutes. So once we put the cookies in, they'll be done right around the same time. Okay, let's get our cookies rolled out. So each one of our oatmeal cream pies, which we're actually just going to be filling with marshmallow cream, which is delicious. You can also make a buttercream to fill it, but I feel like buttercream can be a little bit too rich. But we have this nice kind of soft dough. Just grab a nice little ball here and put it. You can make them however big or small that you want. Smaller, of course, is going to give you a lot more, like little cream pies. But I always think of like a nice. I know this is crazy, but I just love the little Debbie's oatmeal cream pies. I know they're like nothing bougie.
There's nothing crazy about that. They're delicious.
They are delicious. And I mean, I've even had them recently and they're just like what I remember as a kid. I remember you could buy them at the gas station for 25 cents and they were so good. They still are, but these are a nice little fall theme version on it. I mean, you can't replicate those cookies because those cookies are like, I don't know. There's just, you can't make that flavor. It's not real flavor. I think I'm going to spread them out and give them a little room because they're going to spread out just a little bit, not too much, but I don't want them to come together. So I've already got to do 2 sheets anyways. So here we go. Now, sometimes if I make a buttercream for it, I will do a brown buttercream with some cinnamon in it to give it a nice little extra flavor to it. But I love, for simplicity, marshmallow cream in the middle is simple and delicious. And it's like the only way I like marshmallow. I'm not a big fan of like real marshmallows, but marshmallow cream, marshmallow fluff, now that's good. Okay. And as you can see, our dough isn't super sticky. It really just feels like a regular chocolate chip cookie dough or an oatmeal cookie dough, even with that whole cup of pumpkin in here. And really, that is a result of making sure we squeeze that extra liquid out of the pumpkin and only using the yolk of the egg. Okay. So let me wash my hands and we're going to pop these in. And these are going to bake I'm going to put them in for about 12 minutes, but depending on how much moisture I actually got out of the cookies, it might take a little bit more. If you're really good and you get a whole bunch of it out, then it takes 12 minutes. Sometimes if you have a bit more moisture and it can take up to 15. But always set it for the earlier time and check on it. Let's get our cookies. And I'm going to set my timer for 12 minutes at 350. There we go. And let's get going on. Let's get our croutons going here. That way we can have them prepped and ready to go in the oven because croutons only take about like 5-10 minutes max in the oven. So when I take them out, we'll have them ready to bake up. I just need to grab a baking sheet. So the other day we made a delicious sourdough focaccia, and I have a teeny bit left over. Yesterday we turned it into a sandwiches, like these roast beef and cheddar melts, which were delicious. I put sun-dried tomato pesto on mine to make it like a Romanesco one. But leftover focaccia, especially sourdough focaccia, makes the best croutons. So this will be perfect in our salad. So I'm going to kind of cube it up. And I say they make the best one is because there's already a little bit of oil in the focaccia. You put it down there to give it the crispy cuts, which allows them to just get even like crispier, crunchier. It's just really nice in there. They crisp up really nice and they have a bunch of flavor.
Hey, a question. What brand cooking utensils do you like for your pots and pans?
So for my pots and pans, for my non-stick, I have Hexclad. I absolutely love them. I've had mine for a little over 2 years. You mean using in the utensils using in? I thought you were saying my pots and pans. For using into it, okay. You should listen to the whole question. I really like a mixture between KitchenAid, OXO, and I have a couple of like things that I've had for like 20 years from Williams and Sonoma, which I'll show you one. I love this little spatula here. I've got like 5 of them that I got like 20 years ago. that I love. But OXO is a really good, I feel like it's just tried and true. And same with KitchenAid, tried and true. We've got our cut up sourdough focaccia. And now I'm going to grab a little bit of my spices here. We're going to drizzle. Remember our focaccia? We already kind of had it seasoned up. So we're going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil over it. You need a little less than if you were making it with regular sourdough bread, but about a tablespoon. We're going to do a good drizzle of garlic salt. I'm going to do a little bit of onion powder, nice savory. And then let me grab I think I had black peppers right over here. We're going to put our black pepper in here. And yeah. Our focaccia is already seasoned with rosemary, thyme, and green onions. So you don't need a whole lot of extra spices, but you could always throw on Italian seasoning, rosemary, any of those do. Make sure you mix up and coat all of your little cubed pieces of bread here in that olive oil.
You have a request, if you remember, for beef and barley or beef.
Yes,
soup.
Beef and barley soup. I know. I thought about it. I need to pick up some barley from the store.
So early next week.
Yes, I will. I will make sure and I will do that. I haven't made it in a while. Every time I think of the barley, I used to teach this little song to like preschoolers, and it's like, how do the oats and beans and barley grow? Really cheesy song, but now it's been stuck in my head since somebody mentioned the barley soup the other day. Okay, we'll let that sit until what?
Let's hear it.
Oh, how do you know how oats and beans and barley grow? First you put them in the soil, then you cover. It's something along the lines of that. That was something that I learned and I sang while I was student teaching in college in the early 2007, so late 2000s, not early. So I mean, it's been a long time, but I just remember singing that song with the kids. Okay, we have this massive giant chicken breast, which is like, I think probably some like world record here because this thing is huge. It probably came from a turkey. But we're going to fillet it. I'm actually going to fillet it down 3 times because cutting it in half is going to give me essentially a regular size chicken breast. So we're going to fillet it, cut against the grain. That's going to give you a nice, more tender things here. You can see the grain. Cutting against it gives you that rough texture, but it's going to make it very tender and delicious. So now we're going to do our next one. And the way I do it, don't just stab your knife in. First, make your little cuts like this, and then you can slide it through. If you just try to stab it through, it's going to be a lot harder to cut it evenly. So nice and easily through this. And that way, again, you can kind of cut against the grain, make your chicken a little bit more tender. So as you can see, we've got 3 pretty normal sized chicken breasts now. It's probably from, the Godzilla chicken. Okay. We're going to season this up with a little bit of Worcestershire. Make it nice and flavorful. So we got our Worcestershire. And got my spices over here. We're going to use some fresh herbs on our chicken as well. So I'm going to have to mince those up, but I'm going to get my first coating over here. Garlic salt, a nice little drizzle. This is a quick marinade, so you want a little bit more spice than if you were going to let it sit and marinate for longer. A little bit of black pepper. Here we go. And then I've got fresh rosemary and fresh thyme that we're going to use in our chicken. And I'm going to put it in our dressing because I think we'll just add some great flavor with it. So I'm going to grab a couple sprigs out of here. Now, the joys of using fresh herb means you've got to de-twig it. Kind of essentially take off the little leaves on here. with time, if you really didn't want to, you could probably mince up these little, things fine enough. But with rosemary, you really have to de-leaf it because the rosemary, like sprigs that the leaves are on, are like tree branches. I think that was I had this, my rosemary like died early in this thing. And I think it was because I didn't water it. Imagine that. But it we had this growing in this like random quarter where I used to have old garden boxes, which I had not done in forever. But for years, we had this huge rosemary shrub bush that it would get so overgrown that my husband would go in and trim it up, and then he finally got rid of it. And now I'm like, oh, I really wish I had that rosemary bush now, because it could grow like crazy there. So we've got about a teaspoon of fresh thyme. I'm gonna give it a nice little mince up. You can also use dried thyme if you want. Both are great options. I always like to use fresh. I feel like it's a way that you can kind of elevate your cooking without having to do a lot more work in it. But I also know the reality is not everybody has fresh herbs with them all the time. But so dried will definitely work. And then we have about a teaspoon of dried rosemary. If you're gonna, or a fresh rosemary, if you're gonna use dried, you're gonna want to use, a little bit less of the rosemary. The thyme I feel like you can do hand in hand, but the rosemary use a little bit less, or it'll be too overpowering. Okay, so here we've got our little minced up herb blend. So rosemary and thyme, and I'm going to sprinkle some on. And we're just going to divide this up essentially into like 6 pinches. So then I can flip my chicken over. I'm going to grab a tong and.
You have a question. How long do the fresh herbs last, and do you keep them in the fridge?
Yes, I keep my fresh herbs in the fridge, and they will last about a week. Now, some last longer, like rosemary is much more hardy and is not as moisture filled. So it definitely can last longer. Like some like basil, dill, those are a little bit more delicate and can't last as long. A lot of mine, I have a lot growing in my garden. So when I have it in my garden, I can use it. But yeah, they typically last about a week. And then their leaves start to like wilt up and whatnot. Now, rosemary is the opposite. That one can last longer. Let me get a little bit of pepper on here. And forgot my little Worcestershire. Dabble, dabble, dabble. And then we'll add our last bits of herbs. Here we go. Waste not, want not. Now, you could also, if you wanted to sit and marinate and not do a quick kind of a dry rub on it, you could take these herbs and add them to about a tablespoon or so of olive oil and a tablespoon of Worcestershire and kind of make a wet marinade that you can then completely kind of cover up with it and let it sit. But since I like to do a quick marinade, that's what we have here. Okay, let's get our olive oil heating up in our pan for our chicken. And we can start slicing our bread for our melt. I'm going to use about a tablespoon of olive oil in here.
You have a question? What do you think is the most versatile protein?
Oh, I would have to say chicken. Chicken is hands down. You can do so many things with it, and there's so many different cuts that also change it up. And I feel like it's the one that is, I feel like it's a universal. Like most people like it. They're, not, I feel like pork, you have lots of people who can eat pork or beef or whatnot. But I feel like chicken is really well. And I would say fish, but so many people don't like fish. So I feel like chicken is your good go-to meal. Okay. Let me check on our cookies. Oh, well, let's start heading over there because they have 20 seconds left. So we can check on them. We'll put our croutons in. The cookies, we need to take them out and let them cool before we can fill them up with our things. That's why I want them out. And then we'll kind of work on the next part. But let's cancel. We had 5 seconds left. These are looking pretty darn good. perfect. I think they're done. You don't want to cook them any longer because you don't want them to crack. I'm going to do, got my roasted veggies that are going on their salad. Got my croutons. There we go. And we'll let those kind of finish off cooking in here. Now we're going to let these sit and cool. Don't overcook your cookies because then they'll be, like dry and crunchier. But these are kind of perfect. We've got our nice, let me straggler a little oats there. But we're going to let them cool for about 5 minutes on our tray here, and then I will take them to a cookie cooling tray. You just don't want to take them off before they've set, or they'll fall apart in that transfer process. Okay, got a cookie cooling rack out here for later. And let's get our heat going for our oil to kind of cook it up. And we'll wait on that. Our salad prep will take hardly any time. So let's focus on our sandwich while we're waiting for the rest of our salad to kind of prep up here. So anytime, again, I have homemade sourdough bread left over, I've got to make some sandwiches. And that's what we're going to have with our chicken.
Quick question. Do you have the recipe for these cookies posted?
So I might make that recipe for our recipe card for our members this week. So I try to send out a couple recipe cards each week for our members. So I might make this one our weekly one on there. And then we will upload our video, the lives to all of our videos. We upload them onto the link on our page. So everybody can always rewatch the video to make them. And I always try to go through every single step so nobody is missing out on anything. Okay, this is our nice, beautiful, it's so soft, delicious sourdough. And I'm going to cut my slices here. I think I should be able to get 2 good-sized sandwiches out of this, and then that last bit of chicken can go into our salad. And these, when I say 2 good-sized, 2 full-size, but we always cut our sandwiches in half because they're sourdough bread sandwiches are pretty massive sandwiches. There we go. Those look good. Have a little bit left. One of my favorite things for sourdough is you put it in the toaster, add a little butter, and then you add in something. I'm not going to put any pesto on yours, but I'm going to, let me grab my butter. We're going to spread a little bit of soft butter on each side of our bread. Once I do that, then we're going to go pop our chicken in because I feel like our oil should be nice and hot. Have it warming up. We can start searing off our chicken. You don't want to put your chicken in cold oil or you're not going to get that nice, beautiful brown sear on it. Let's flip this. Make the pretty. I always like to do the pretty on the outside because it cooks up a little bit nicer. And you don't need a whole lot of butter in the inside, just enough to kind of give you that nice, like crispy, crunchy sear on it. Let's see. I think it might need a little bit more. Let me get a little drop of water and see if it sizzles. Not yet. Almost. Once it's nice, once it sizzles, so I'm going to say it needs like 30 more seconds or a minute to kind of hook up, then we'll do it. I'm going to start getting my cheese ready for our melts. I'm going to use Gouda on mine. Do you want Gouda or cheddar? So predictable. That's why I got them both out. Okay, let me grab my... It took me a while to convert my husband to other cheeses outside of cheddar. He wouldn't give them a fair, love for a very long time. But I finally convinced him, and now he loves it, actually. So last year I did it, and I'm doing it again this year, is I made him a homemade, I guess, cheese advent calendar. But there's this like cheese company in Wisconsin. Can't remember the exact name of it, but I bought like 24 different little cheeses from them. And he got that every single day. He opened up a new cheese to try it. And it was actually a lot of fun. There were some really crazy ones in there, really spicy ones, and exotic ones, but it was really fun. So I'm definitely going to do it this year because I always do. I make him these homemade advent calendars because I'm really big into the advent calendars, like crazy big, into having all these different crazy ones. But I also do like a exotic jerky meat one for him, so he has like a whole bunch of different ones. But I think our oil is nice and hot now, so I'm going to drop our chicken into sear. There we go. Nice, beautiful saute on it. And perfect. Now I'm going to turn it down to just about a 6. It was heating up on an 8, but I'm going to turn it down, and we'll let it kind of cook for about 2 minutes or so on each side, maybe a little bit more. I'll know kind of by the color of it when it's going through. So for mine, I'm going to do Gouda, because Gouda is so good. It's one of my favorite cheeses. And every year, so we always got Gouda on at Christmas time because it was always on our smorgasbord, which was our like Swedish feast that my mom made every year growing up. And so we had Gouda and Edam cheeses. Then she had some weird smelly cheeses that I don't even know. But they were delicious, and I have always loved Gouda since then. I'm going to put a little bit of pesto on mine, so it will be like the chicken with pesto and Gouda cheese, which will be delicious. And my husband, he's just going to be boring, plain cheddar and chicken, but the chicken is seasoned up nice. Now with your pesto, because it is an oil base, do not just like load it on there too much, because then you're going to get a soggy meat for it. So kind of just do a little bit and try to spread it as evenly to get that, flavor to it. But if you kind of just hunk it on there, it can get a little greasy. Okay. Since waiting on that, let's start prepping up our rest of our salad. We'll make our dressing in there, and we'll take our croutons out in a few minutes. And then we'll be able to stuff our cookies. So I've got a bag of romaine lettuce. Now you could use any lettuce that you like, but I either typically get the whole ones, but this week they were on sale, 3 for $5, so I was winning.
You have a question? Where do you get that cheese slicer?
Everyone always asks me, it's because it's the best. This one I got from my mom, and she got it in Europe. I believe it's I want to actually say it's German because it actually looks like German, but it could be Dutch as well. Because it says Bauernkasterei, and so my husband's looking at it. I said the Hass is throwing me off because German doesn't have the double A's in it, but the words underneath look German to me, so I really think it is German, which makes sense. But there's our cheese thing. It is my favorite one. It works really, really well. But I think she brought it back when she went to visit her family there. Let's look. We're getting there. I'm going to let it saute just a little bit longer because I want a little bit more of that brownish sear on it. I'm going to rotate my pan so that this one gets some of that really nice hot area. Let that sit there. We'll flip it in just a second. I'm going to start turning on my skillet pan so that it can start toasting up the bottom half of this. That way, when we flip it, we don't have to do quite as long of it. So in here, I've got some tomatoes that I picked from my garden. The green ones are the ones that Jackie picked, but I've been collecting them in my little bowl here. So we're just going to throw a handful of them. But these are fresh from there. I have one cherry tomato plant, which I was actually gifted. And it is like the best producer. And I'm like, I want to know where they bought this one because it actually grew up and then over my fence and is all the way down to the other side. And I think it's because it's not in my yard. Most of it, the side that's not in my yard, grows wonderful. Any part of my yard, not so much. Doesn't like me. We have one cucumber, which doesn't necessarily fit so much with our theme of it, but I had this from my garden as well, so I want to use it up. I'm going to cut off this kind of outside bit of it because this is not one of those baby cucumbers, so the outside can be a bit tough. And then, there we go. I'll throw that in there. It's a very seedy one. Let's flip our chicken here. Our cookies should be ready to come off onto our cooling rack in just a second here. Beautiful. Nice kind of golden brown sear on it. We'll leave it there. And we're going to slide our cookies off for their final cooling part. They should be nice and firm. Nice, again, super golden brown. I don't even need my spatula, but you want to just make sure you get that insides cool because you don't want it to melt the marshmallow fluff because then it won't hold together. Or if you're using buttercream, the buttercream. But again, these are my pumpkin oatmeal cream pies. So they're just like a pumpkin oatmeal cookie. You could totally eat them just as the cookie form. But we're going to fill them with the marshmallow cream in there. And there. Slide this out of here because this will be for my second batch that I'll bake up. Okay. Let's get our apple slice. Then we'll make our dressing. We're going to check on our, what do we have in the oven? Our croutons and our roasted squash here in just a second. It's cooking on 350, which is a little bit lower than I normally do it, but that's what our cookies cooked on. So they'll be done soon. And then we have our grilled cheeses that we'll put our chicken on here in just a second, but it's kind of cooking up nice and slowly, getting that first initial melt on it. We'll throw in our apple slices because we're kind of building out our salad. Has some fresh thyme on it, which will taste delicious because we're going to use them in our dressing. Okay. I think we only need that. Let's go check on our veggies and everything right there. I'm going to check this because we're good. We want to get our veggies out and our croutons. You need your croutons to sit and cool for about 5 minutes before you serve them because when you first take them out of the oven, they are going to be chewy. And then as they cool, they crisp up. But they are looking perfect. Everything looks good. I'm going to turn here. And let me grab a second pot holder. We can get both of these out. Okay, so we've got our roasted veggies and our croutons. Again, the croutons, when you first pull them out of the oven, are going to be soft or chewy. The second is when they cool off, that's when they crisp up nicely. There we go. We've got our roasted veggies. Let's check our chicken out. Oh, looking fantastic. Beautiful. These are almost done. I'm going to turn it down to just around a 5 here. And I'll take a quick peek at our grilled cheeses, although I still think they need a bit more time. Yep, which is perfect because my goal is that these chicken will be ready so that they can go right on there and cool off. And we'll have those parts ready. Let's make our dressing now. Okay, we're just going to do a basic kind of creamy balsamic vinaigrette with some fresh herbs in. So I've got some olive oil. We're going to do, let's see what that got me to. About like a 1/4 of a cup of olive oil. So I'm going to do a 1/4 a cup olive oil with a 1/4 a cup of mayo. So I do equal parts, and then I'll do the kind of a 1/4 of a cup of balsamic vinegar. A little bit more in here. And we're going to add in our 1/4 a cup of our balsamic vinaigrette. You want to help me cook, buddy? Looks like Teddy woke up from his nap. He heard me cooking, so he's coming right over with his little helper. Come over here, buddy. I don't want you by the cooking or the chicken. There you go. You can help me with my vinaigrette here in just a second. Let's check on our chicken. Beautiful. I'm going to turn this off since it's nice and done. And then I'm going to move our chicken over to our sandwiches. I'm going to leave one that we will keep on there for our salad. But we've got our chicken on here. That's going to help melt our cheese. And we're going to add a little bit more cheese on here as well as our cheddar, and we'll put our top on. And then Teddy, do you want to help me add in the spices to make up the rest of our dressing?
Yes.
Okay, good. Here we go. So we've got our Gouda on here. You find a little piece of apple, buddy?
Yeah.
Yeah. You like apples? Okay. And then we're going to do our top coat of cheddar. And then I think our sandwiches should be about ready to flip on here. I'm going to turn it down just a smidge, but we should have a nice kind of golden brown edging on it. Beautiful. Now we will toast them again on the other side as well, but that first one is to start that melting process and getting it going there because sourdough is thicker and needs a little bit more. Ready to help me, bud?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you help me shake in some garlic? We're going to add in our onion powder. Help me shake it in, bud. We want about 1.5 teaspoons. There we go. Thank you, buddy. And then we're going to add in some pepper, just 1/2 teaspoon. I don't like too much. I don't want it too strong, but a little bit. So we're going to do a good little shake. Thank you. And we're going to do some garlic salt. A good little shake for Mama. About 1 teaspoon. You don't need too much because mayo has a lot of kind of saltiness to it. And then we're going to cut up our fresh herbs here. So just like we roasted our vegetables with, we're in our chicken season on there. We're going to add some rosemary and yeah, you want to here smell it. Smells yummy.
What like rosemary?
Yeah, it smells like rosemary. And then we're going to add in some fresh thyme and some green onions. Those are going to be kind of the base flavors to our vinaigrette. And we're going to shake it up and it will be ready to serve over our salad. So again, I'm going to just take off some of these leaves.
Oh yeah, I can't.
You're doing that for me? Thank you. You don't need a whole lot with fresh herbs. Now you can definitely use dried out herbs. With dried herbs, your vinaigrette is going to last a little bit longer in the salad than it is with that. Here, I'm going to move this out of the way for you, buddy, okay?
Yeah. That's weird.
That was. Here we
go.
So we're going to mince it up. Here we go. And do you think you can pick those up and put them in my salad for me? Or my dressing right in there? Yep. Right in there. Perfect. Put it up in the dressing. Get a little bit more.
Green.
That's right. And then last but definitely not least, we need our green onions. Let me go grab my knife again.
Red.
You like red onions?
Yeah.
Yeah. Onion grass. Are you calling it onion grass? Yes, we call this because it grows in our yard in the spring, onion grass, because when we mow the lawn, it smells like onions. There we go.
Know it.
You put those in there. So we're going to do about 2, stalks of small green onions. Good job, buddy. And now I'm going to flip my grilled cheeses. Beautiful. We're going to do our final crisping up on both sides, and then we're going to put our marshmallow in our oatmeal cream pie. So let's just finish up assembling our salad dressing here. And with the oatmeal cream pies, you always just have to wait a few minutes before you fill them out so that it's not too hot inside the cookie. Shake, 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 shake. You think you can shake it up for me? Yeah. Good job. Good job. Okay. So here is our creamy balsamic vinaigrette that has our nice fall flavors on it that we'll put on our salad. I'm going to grab my, see if this cooled down. Yes. We're going to put our roasted veggies. So this is our roasted butternut squash, sweet peppers, and onions. I'm going to place this on our salad too. So we'll add it into our salad. Here we go. And we're almost done building out our salad. Good job, buddy. And then, can you reach into this bag and put some pumpkin seeds on our salad?
What?
Then you're going to add about a 4th cup of pumpkin seeds. We're going to sprinkle it over. Yep. Good job, buddy.
I see it.
You did it. This is
Ooh,
going to add a nice
I
crunch.
see it.
And then, of course, at the end, we will add our lovely, delicious croutons. They're still crisping up a little bit. Okay, buddy. We're going to move over there, bud, so that we can fill up our cookies with some marshmallow cream. You want to help me with the marshmallow cream? Okay. Let's go. You ready? Chugga, 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 choo, choo. Slide you right here. Let me get you a spoon as well. Okay, with the cookies, and this is the part that makes it super simple with marshmallow cream. You don't have to do anything extra or fancy. With buttercream, you've got to make it, and then you've got to pipe it in there. With marshmallow cream, you're just going to take a spoonful of it, and then you're going to spread it right inside the middle of your cookie, and you can do as little or as much as you want. And then you sandwich it together and you have this beautiful ice cream cookie or this marshmallow cream cookie. There. But you have to make sure your cookies are all the way filled down. Good job. Next time, buddy, make sure you do it on the bottom.
Why?
So that you have your flat sides in there. And we'll just fill them up like this. If you love a lot, you can do more. I like just a smidge amount, you know, just enough to coat it all under there, but it's not super, super full. Okay, these grilled cheese sandwiches are just about done. Look at that. We're going to let them finalize and cook off. And let's whip up a few more of these. So again, just a little dollop in the middle. You don't need to worry about spreading it apart because when you push these two cookies together, look, it spreads down.
That's weird. How do you do that?
Now, how do I do it? I have to work and put it together to make a yummy oatmeal cream pie. That was something when Teddy was recovering from his getting his adenoids and tonsils out. Oatmeal cream pies, the Little Debbie oatmeal cream pies and muffins were a thing because they're very soft, and he was able to eat them up no problem.
So you have a question. Where did you get the griddle pan?
The griddle pan is a hex-clad griddle pan. So it is from their collection. I absolutely love it because it makes the best grilled cheeses as well as pancakes, tortillas, quesadillas, naan. I use it for so many things. So I absolutely love it. Okay, buddy. Do you want to take a cookie?
Yeah.
Okay, good job. How about you? I'm going to start grab up. You can go enjoy that, buddy. Okay, let's get ready here to serve up our lunch. Slide this over here. We got to throw our croutons on. So these are our homemade. And now if you can hear them, they're nice and crunchy, you hear? So you've got them nice and crunchy, but still a little bit soft on the inside. And that's from letting them cool. If you take them straight out of the oven and try to eat them, they're going to be chewy. I'm going to tell you, these croutons are also really delicious for just eating straight up. So we've got our salad here. Got my chicken. Let me turn that off. Let me get a plate here, and we're going to be serving up. Grab tongs. Let me grab my little cutting board. And let's get our cookies right over to the side. Beautiful. Okay. For lunch today, we have our homemade sourdough and chicken melt. So we've got pesto, Gouda cheese, and sautéed chicken on our homemade sourdough bread. And we will be serving it with our homemade salad with roast veggies and homemade croutons using our leftover sourdough focaccia that we had used the other 2 days ago. We baked up and we roasted those in the oven. I have butternut squash, sweet peppers, onions, apples, tomatoes, pumpkin seeds. And we're going to drizzle our salad with our homemade creamy balsamic vinaigrette, which is just absolutely lovely and tangy as well. And pop my little homemade crouton right there. And for dessert, we have our delicious oatmeal cream pie. Pumpkin oatmeal cream pie has a whole cup of pumpkin in our cookies. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm going to try to do live cooking shows every single day, kind of show you what we're making for our family and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page. So if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just go to that page, search for what we made, and you can always watch and cook along with me again. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront that has all of our different cooking gear and gadgets in it. I've got my hex-clad griddle pan in there, my knives, my cutting boards, all the different gadgets I use in the kitchen I have in there for you guys to check out. But again, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe.